From policy to politics, from power to the people. This is 60 Minutes with Mr. K, the conversation where leadership is questioned, records are examined, and Nigeria's future is put under the spotlight. I am Mr. K, and today I sit across from a man whose political journey has spanned the streets, the labor movement, the state house, and the red chambers. A familiar face in Nigeria's democratic evolution, outspoken, experienced, and never far from the center of national discourse. For the next 60 minutes, we go beyond the headlines. We interrogate decisions, revisit defining moments, and ask the hard questions about governance, party politics, and the direction of the nation. Our guest today is Senator Adams Oshiomhole, a former president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, two-term governor of Edo State, former national chairman of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and now serving senator representing Edo North Senatorial District. From labor activism to executive leadership and national party administration, his political career has been marked by influence, controversy sometimes, reforms, and resilience. Tonight, he joins us to discuss governance, internal party dynamics, economic realities, and his perspective on the Nigeria of today and the future. Senator Adams Oshiomhole, welcome to 60 Minutes with Mr. K.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me.
So, good. Let me start from the very beginning. The first question that crossed my mind is your journey into politics. So let me start from that very perspective. You are a labor activist, a labor leader, and then you went into politics, and the story has been very interesting because at the time that you went into it, a lot of people never gave you a chance to become a leader in the political realm, and then you did. And one of the things that you were credited with was breaking down or practically destroying the band of people that held sway as godfathers in Edo State. Tell me, how did you do it?
Thank you very much, Carol. To check from my colleague at the NSC at the time, I was opposed to the idea of labor being involved in partisan politics. I thought that we would just get co-opted, and in the end, the line will be blurred between labor and government. And government being not just the largest single employer of labor, but also be responsible for broad fiscal, monetary, social, and economic policies that define the quality of life. And I worried then that if we get co-opted, we might simply lack the will, or will be unable to represent workers effectively. Labor, no matter what anybody say, is more democratic than any other non-state civil society organization. First, because it's membership driven, doesn't get funding from abroad, doesn't get donation from wealthy individuals. It lives exclusively on workers' contribution. When you say dues paying membership, and therefore is accountable to the workers. But we took a vote, and many felt that no, we can't limit ourselves to protesting. Yes, we have to pursue our primary agenda of representing workers through collective bargaining, etc., dispute resolution, arbitration, etc. However, for what we also know, this instrument can yield temporary and limited relief. It does not fundamentally alter public policy, and which is why you might win wage award in the morning, by evening prices have changed, and the next day you are back to wanting to ask for more wage.
Yeah.
So this is what happens particularly as Nigeria radically move away from mixed economy, which means public and private sector play dominant role, to one that is increasingly market-driven and market-based with market tools.
Yes.
If you know that now it form increasingly public policy.
So, sorry, if you don't mind me just interjecting, I just want to quickly get to the bottom of how did you do the transition?
Okay.
From
now at the end of my
Labour to
NSC stewardship, and around the NSC in a manner that I think the record will speak because you've been very active in the media. I put my best into it, and I was determined to fight, not alone, along with my colleagues, any policy that I consider damaging to working families. But at the end of my tenure, because we have a defined 4 years, renewable for another 4 years and no more. And I know that at what time I announced to my comrades that I was not going to seek re-election, even for the second term, because the then president tends to personalize the struggle, and he failed to make a decision between my personal opinion and the collective wish of the Nigeria workers, which I have to carry. And so I decided enough of this blackmail. You recall that at a point he did a broadcast in which he accused me of behaving like an alternate president, and I was running Nigeria Labour Congress like a parallel government. That was obviously accusing me of treason. But the good news is that because we are in a democracy, he didn't have the power to order my arrest, nor can he prosecute me for lawfully pursuing whatever we thought was right. So on account of the way I managed the NSC, I led the NSC, many people said I should contest for president. I had some energy.
This is the era of president.
Yeah, that's the era now to get into partisan politics. In fact, I remember the then DG of DSS, called the RN, now ambassador to the US. He called me once and said, "Why am I in a hurry?" I said, "What?" He said, "The dispatches get is that I'm contesting for president." I said, "No, I'm already president of Nigeria." He said, "No, not that one. President of Nigeria." I asked him, "You are a chief Secret Service DG. Which political party do I belong? Which politician do I associate with? I don't. And I do that deliberately. So how?" So what he was saying, how was he saying it? He said, "The dispatch is getting from the state is that I'm preparing for presidency." I said, "Nothing can be further from the truth. If I had political interest, knowing the environment that President Obasanjo, you can't be governor unless he endorses you, maybe I would be tempted to want to be nice boy." And even when President Obasanjo, as he then was, we say, "Adams, instead of you to support me so that when it's your turn, I will support you, you are fighting. You don't even know strategy." I'm like, what is he talking about? What will be my turn? Because those things are not on my agenda. And so I did my job the way I had prayed. The NSC should be led. And we did. I think in those 8 years, we must organize more than 10 general strikes. And the whole country was shut down on each occasion. Each time we were successful, that placed more burden on me to sustain the public trust. Because there we don't even have a mobile phone. You have got NTA as the main source of news at 9. I think later AIT came in, and much later, channel television. Otherwise, the whole means of communication is owned by government. Yeah. So we're able to do that, and then people now say, "I should contest for president." You recall that the late Ganifa of blessed memory, a well-known senior advocate of Nigeria, and even Professor Itsesage. Yeah. I mentioned this few, but there are many others who say, "I should go for president." I said, "No. I can see that the elections are not clean." So popularity with the people, the process of converting into political capital will require more time. My tenure ended on the 15th or the 16th of February, 2007. And governorship election was to be April 14, 2007. That gives me barely 2 months to campaign. And the presidential election thereafter. So I'm a realist. There is no way I can go around the country, every state, every local government, because if you don't have the money, you have to do the legwork. So physically, it wasn't possible. So I said, okay. But I will agree to contest for the governorship of Edo State. At a time when the real powers that be in the PDP were in Edo. You remember the late Chief Anini, even the then President Obasanjo, he addressed Chief Anini as the leader. You have late Samuel Bemudia, who everybody knows his political weight. So we have these guys all coming from Edo, and here I am wanted to challenge them for power. I said I wasn't going to run on PDP platform. I was going to run on a different political party platform. So I ended up in ACN, which existed only in Lagos. And people were like, how can you do it? Your party exists only in Lagos. But I remember I did some billboards, they were destroying it, and I said, I will do the legwork. I visited not just every ward, I visited as many communities as possible. And my only tool of trade is my capacity to persuade, to organize, to mobilize, and to give people courage. I remember saying to them, there are some very conservative and unhelpful African proverbs. If you can't beat them, join them. And I said, no. Our people, we have to be able to do things differently. If you can't beat them, keep fighting them, because they can be beaten and they will be beaten and we will beat them.
Okay.
So based on this, we did mobilization. The rest is history.
Yes.
I won the election. At that time, there's no PVC.
Yes.
There was no beavers. That is the days you used to see even police carry ballot papers, helping
And in those days,
PDP
they said
to
that
put them.
governors wrote
And of
results.
course, President Obasanjo effectively destroyed opposition. He appointed the chairman of AMPP that used to have about 10 states to be special advisor, inter-party relations. And one by one, he collapsed. Then he took over AD, rig out all the governors in the Southwest.
Yeah,
So that
done,
done,
the governors.
it was difficult to fight. But they rigged me out. And I decided on that day to organize a mass protest, peaceful, across Benin. And I said, stop, I'll go to court. I went to Election Petition Tribunal. I think I'm on record as the first person. Because usually when you go for election petition tribunal, the best you can get, if you lead evidence to show that the election was done free and fair, the courts usually nullify and ask for a rerun. And when they order such rerun, typically PDP will just take advantage of the loophole observed by the judges, by the tribunal, improve on the rigging, and so many elections were nullified, but nobody went through a rerun that made the loser, the person who was declared loser, the winner. But I remember even arguing with my lawyers when they said there is no precedent. I said, no, every day Superior Court sits, they make judgment, become a precedent. There's no end of precedent. And in the end, we made a case, we made a elaborate review of all the polling units and so on and so forth. We were able to establish that I had the SIPO majority and I had 1/3 of 2/3 of the local government. And so I was declared the winner rather than the tribunal ordering a rerun. And that is why when people indulge in sweeping generalization, condemning the judiciary, I never joined. Because here am I had no time to give to any judge. I did not offer. I couldn't offer what I don't have. And yet the judges entered judgment in my favor. And PDP, with all their money and power, because then they used to boast, they control the Ministry of Justice, they control the police, they control the army, they control the federal treasury, so nobody can dare them. But God used those judges and very resourceful lawyers.
So you were the unprecedented new president.
Yeah. That is how the unprecedented new president started.
Yes.
And I was declared the winner.
Okay, so very quickly then.
So that is my journey into politics.
So now you went into politics, you got into you became the governor of Edo State. In 8 years of being there, there were people who said you did well. And there were those that some people will call haters who didn't think you did well. But above average, most people will say you did brilliantly well in your 8 years, which was part of the reason that the people of Edo, especially your senatorial district, rewarded you with an opportunity to serve them again as the senator representing their senatorial district. How do you see your 8 years in just a few words so that we can move on to the other state issues?
Thank you very much. I think the result of my second term is the most potent and most persuasive evidence, namely that I contested against a man who was described as deep pocket, who freshly retired from the army as director of Army Finance and I think Army Finance and Accounts. And went to the election. He is from Benin City. And I defeated him in Edo South, which is Benin. in all the 77 wards. I defeated late Chief Anini in his own ward in Edo State. I won in all the 18 local government that constituted Edo State, and I scored 76.4% of the total vote cast. So for me, that is the referendum. And my tools were simple. I did it embark on White Elephant Project. I addressed those basic things that everybody can see that our people were going through, namely that the children of the poor were now being forced into mushroom private school where there are no qualified teachers because public schools were without roof. So I started by rebuilding public schools, rebuilding roads, building healthcare centers, equipping them, and so on and so forth. And so, even by choice of project in Benin City, I concentrated on what is usually referred to as high density area, where the poorest of the poor live. Because I said, if I hadn't become a governor, this is where I would typically live. That is the kind of place I lived when I was working in a textile factory. So, and typically in every 1 square kilometer or 1 square meter or 1 building, you have about 20-25 people living there. In the GRA, so-called low density area, in a compound of 200 by 200, you will find a man, his wife, and maybe two, three children. If they are young, if they are old, they would have gone to school and is there only with his cooks. So in terms of delivering the greatest good to the greatest number, I targeted the deprived part of Benin City and the rest of the state. There's a place they used to call teachers' house that was abandoned. And the previous government said it was due to some spiritual, they call Mami water, that there's nothing you could do about the flood erosion. We did holistic, what we call a Benin City water storm master plan to deflood all of those areas to enable us construct 6-lane roads in different parts of Benin City, where they didn't have one dual carriageway before I got there. The day we switched on street light in Benin, people say Oshiomhole had turned Benin to London. So governance for me is simple. Nigerians are easy to govern. Regardless of what anybody say, the real Nigerians, they are easy to govern. What they need is they want to see an element of consistency. They want to see that you care.
Fantastic. On that note, I have to take a short break.
Yeah.
When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. So we take a short break now. When we return, there's still plenty of questions on the big picture, Nigeria's leadership, and the state of the nation. Just stay with us.
Daylight on Breakfast Central. Join us weekdays from 7 a.m. for the best of every morning. Breaking news, insightful segments, business, politics, sports, daily newspaper reviews, what Nigerians are saying, which way Nigeria. Start your morning the right way, only on Breakfast Central.
Welcome back to 60 Minutes with Mr. K. If you're just joining us, our guest today is Senator Adams Oshiomhole, former president of the Nigeria Labour Congress, two-time governor of Edo State, former national chairman of the APC, and currently senator representing Edo North Senatorial District. Before the break, we examined his legacy and his journey through being a Labour Congress leader to becoming governor of Edo State and reflected on the evolution of governance in the state since his tenure. Now we shift our focus to the broader picture, the state of the nation, the direction of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Let's have this conversation. So you have since left the position of being a governor, and then you became a senator. And that was a very interesting journey because in between it, you were chairman of the APC.
I was sacked.
You had to remember and chip that in. You were sacked. Okay, let's start from there. Where were you sacked? What did you do wrong? Or what did you fail to agree to do?
Yeah, you know, people wanted me to adopt their style, and I can't borrow your style. I'm a labor man, and I come from what I call the real democratic tradition, where it is not about your strength, it's about number. And so we have some governors who question my right as national chairman to run the party on the basis of its constitution. For example, the then governor of Ogun State, he wouldn't comply with the National Working Committee rules.
This is Governor Musu.
Yeah, Governor Musu. He wouldn't comply because he was very close to the late President Buhari, and he thought because of that, he was above the law. And we conduct primaries, he chose to do his own, even though the Supreme Court has said that there's only one registered political party. States are organs, are no more. And when he then decided to conduct his own primaries, we refused to recognize it. We upheld the result of the one we conducted that produced Dakpo. Abiodun as the governor. He would have won Akilade, who was his chief of staff then, to succeed him. There's nothing wrong with that, but you have to follow the due process. He wasn't ready to do that. And he went to court. The court upheld our decision. He then sponsored governorship and House of Assembly, House of Rep candidates in another political party called APM. They usually jokingly refer to it as Amosu People's Movement. And once we had the evidence that he was campaigning against the party, the National Working Committee that I chaired, in line with the party constitution, gave him a query. He did the answer. We suspended him. We did the same thing to later Akeredolu for supporting candidates in another party platform against those who won the primaries on APC platform. We also suspended him. We did the same thing to Rucha Sokorocha, who felt that he was above the law. He wanted his son-in-law to be governor. He wanted himself to be senator. He wanted his wife to be something in another place. And I said to him, I can't help you create a political dynasty. So the people of Imo State have to decide. Then he had challenges with the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church, the Christian community, basically. And there was this quote. You see find them on YouTube.
But what's the difference between you? Sorry, sir. Let me just very quickly.
These decisions that we took.
Yes.
To assert the authority of the National Working Committee to insist on conducting free and fair primaries did not go down well with some of these governors. The second is that some of the governors told me to my face that, yes, they have no problem with me. They are happy because I have no problem with them either. But that they believe if I remain as chairman, I will impose Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, as he was called, the leaders of the party, as presidential candidate on APC. And whereas APC had different factions, many of the governors wanted to become president, like Amishi wanted to be president. Of course, you also know the former vice president was also contesting. There were quite a number of them like that, and their supporters. But what these various factions had in common, in terms of presidential aspiration, they all have divergent views as to who they are supporting. But they all came to the wrong conclusion that if I am chairman, in their judgment, I'm too smart, I will impose Asiwaju as presidential candidate. And every effort I made to explain that no chairman can do it. They were convinced, and so on that basis, they couldn't get the two-thirds required to remove a national chairman who was elected, because I was elected at a convention of about 7,000 delegates at Edo Square. Now, they went to one Justice Senchi and claimed that 8 members of my ward wrote a letter saying they have no confidence in me. Now, on that basis,
8 members.
8 members, 8 from my ward. Those 8 can't even remove a ward chairman. But they took that to get an ex parte order from Justice Senchi. Why I want to say Justice Senchi, I mentioned his name, is that I don't want to say judiciary. You just scandalize the entire system. Everybody has to answer his father's name. Justice Senchi, on the strength of, quote, vote of no confidence, signed only by 8 out of 27 ward executives, granted an interim order that I should stop parading myself pending determination of the motion on notice. And between then, I went to Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal set aside Justice Senchi's judgment. When the pressure persisted, the Court of Appeal, they summoned another panel, composed another panel. And I remember Wale Onanipeku, SAN, told me it's impossible. But they sat and they said they have revised themselves. They now uphold Justice Sechi's interim order. And once they did that, within 7 days, that was during coronavirus, they had a Zoom meeting at the villa. We never have a meeting at the state ESCO chambers. That's where the meeting was held. I wasn't invited. There was no query. The rules are clear. And they said, on the basis of that, not only did they remove me, they dissolved the entire working committee that I led. And that is why, if I am a senator today, is because, many people ask me to go to court. In the end, I withdraw. I told my lawyer, it's not worth it. Let them have their party. We did it for me, APC, for me to become chairman. I do remember that the former president, President Buhari, said in 2016, when he came to Edo, Oshiomhole, come, we need you in Abuja. We need you in Abuja. APC, we need you in Abuja. And subsequently, after a week later, I handed over. I visited him in his office. He said, I want you to come and lead the APC. Otherwise, we should forget about 2019 election. We need you. That's how I got involved as chairman. That was never in my estimation. Right. Again, I have told people that, what you become in life, it's not so much what you pray for. It's what God has willed for you. Okay. And I found myself a chairman, and then people thought that they will use me. By my very nature, I can't be used, but I can be useful. Okay. Right? And that is my philosophy.
Yeah. All right. So let me very quickly.
Now, the Aswaju they work against has become president.
Has become.
Now, yes. Abdullahi, who was the next person to come in after I left, I think, he pronounced somebody as a consensus candidate. And the system reacted. Buhari quickly withdrew. So he has no hand in it.
Yes.
And the rest is history. We had the democratically conducted primaries. And the Bola Tinubu
and that was
the nomination.
That was allegedly riddled with plenty of dollars being shared.
Well, you can say anything, but what I can tell you that those who lost, and I will mention their name, you know them. They can't see me in the eye talking about dollars because I know what they gave. And I will produce those they gave it to, and now they shared it. So let's move on.
So you knew that they gave money. You knew that they shared money.
The important thing is the man they didn't
Distinguished
want.
Senator, you knew they shared money.
I'm not going to, if you don't allow me to land, I will take the second question.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Land.
So it's part of everything they did.
Yeah.
The president won the primaries. And talking about money, the man I saw protest the day before yesterday. Ask him this question that I said you should ask him.
Are you talking about Rotimi Amaechi? Yes.
Ask him how much he tried to, he gave to every delegate.
So he shared money to delegates?
Yes.
And you have evidence?
Yes. Those who collected are alive. You can't even look me in the eye and deny it. And that's why when some people talk, I have seen many things in life. There are people who can't look me in the eye and talk. Because here is Abichi who told me, he said, talking about how I was removed, he said, I should impose unilaterally when our national secretary became the governor of Edo State, Mai Mala Bumi, the office of national secretary is zoned to northeast, while national chairman is zoned to south-south. I'm from the south-south. Amaechi wanted me to announce Victor Giadom from Rivers State, south-south, as the acting national secretary. And I said, how? It's absolutely impossible that south-south is the chairman, south-south national secretary. You know how we are managing the democracy to give everybody, to service our diversity. So it has to go to northeast. We got somebody, he told me at the house of Senator Ararume, who tried to reconcile that if I announce, if NWC uphold the nomination from the northeast, based on Architect Bulama as the secretary, national secretary, he will join my opponent and get the court to remove me. And I said to Amaechi, if God gives you the power so to do, so be it. But I will do what is right. We did what is right. Like I said, he renewed the pressure. The court vacated itself and reinstated my interim order. And I was removed. That is what I decided. Since they use the word vote of confidence,
Yes.
that the only way to make a point, I told the then leader of the party, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, that the only way to cure this mischief is that I will go and contest election in my own senatorial zone. Let me find out if really
you're popular
the
or
thing that
you're not.
Justice Sechi upheld is true. And as you can see,
Yeah.
overwhelmingly, I was voted and returned. But the good news, some of those governors who move against me, they went to the polls and they lost. Now, the Amici that that threatened me with all the powers has been shouting everywhere that he's hungry. Not hunger as the masses see it, political hunger. He will power no more. He cannot threaten a chicken with political power. He has been taken out of it because, in truth, you look at his history, you find that he became governor even without being on the ballot, courtesy of the Supreme Court, whatever I form it. But the Supreme Court has since revised itself that you can't be a governor or a senator or anything without being on the ballot. So Amici broke that negative history of becoming governor even as he was a stranger to ballot. The only time he now ran election proper, he lost.
No,
he was
he
the
won.
DJ of
He won his
Buhari's
second term.
campaign,
He won his second
but he
term.
delivered no vote in Rivers.
But
to
Rotimi
Buhari's
Amici
decision.
won second term
Did
with
he?
his name on the ballot.
Okay, check the records.
Oh,
You will
please share
find
the
over,
record.
wait, check the record. You will find
Yes.
about 2 million votes. And check the record last year where they introduced beavers. Even himself told me, he said, Adams, you can't get more than clean as of that time, more than 500 clean votes in Rivers State. But he posted over 2 million. So I told him, the Perewikos must have come out and ancestors.
So
They
are
came
you
out to vote.
alleging that
and returned
the
to
result
the-
was written?
Hmm?
Are you alleging that the result was written? Like some politicians will say results are often written in Nigeria, they're not based on the election results.
I don't think I need to recycle my position. I have said it. You can cross-check the records.
Okay.
Look at last year's result in Rivers State. All those who voted, regardless of who they voted for, sum them.
And then the numbers
Yeah.
compared to
Because
what you
Puerto
had.
Rico would no longer vote with beavers. Beavers and the traditional PVC.
Okay.
With those
All
two
right, let's move
combinations,
quickly.
magical numbers in terms of
Distinguished
accreditation is no
Senator,
longer possible.
Let's move quickly. Somehow on News Central, we had an interview with the Emir of Kano, Lamido Sanusi, and he said the government has done well with the economy, but that the way it was done is an issue. And that's why a lot of Nigerians are still crying, we're hungry. But if we look at the economy now and you say the macroeconomics is good, but the fact that it's not filtering down to the masses has led to the increase in insecurity that we're experiencing. What would you say to Nigerians about that?
Thank you very much. A couple of contradictions, but let me make some clarification. I led beyond verbal condemnation. I led physical protests. Not once, not twice, not thrice, while I was in the NSC. But over time, I found that subsidy has somehow was quietly removed from kerosene, which affects our rural people, and which will revise all the preachings about deforestation. If people are not going to be forced to cook with firewood, then kerosene must be affordable. But that was already, the subsidy was already withdrawn kerosene. It was also withdrawn on diesel, which is used to power buses, mass transit buses that workers travel with, whether intracity or intercity. And the forum where Sanusi spoke loudest, I was there in Lagos, Musu Center. And that program was partly anchored by someone you know very well, and I'm sure we all respect, Nduka Obiagbena. I flew in from the US with Dangote. We arrived Lagos in the morning, and I was bid to address that forum. Sanusi was there, the current DG of World Trade Organization, Okoje, then Finance Minister was there. I also was there. One Issa removal of the NSA was there. And I said, the subsidy we were fighting to retain is no longer what is happening. Because at that time, the numbers under Obasanjo was either 20 billion, 40 billion, 50 billion will be saved if subsidy is withdrawn. But when it now escalated to 6 trillion, 7 trillion, I said this is no longer subsidy. People now steal money in NNPC and they just invoice it away as subsidy. And therefore, it no longer makes economic sense, even to the poorest of the poor, to retain that subsidy, which creates a big window for operators for NNPC from time to time to continue to defraud the country. It has become a lazy window that everybody exploits. So labor cannot be seen to protect a system that is being used by few to enrich themselves at the expense of public welfare. And government had to borrow on behalf of all for the theft that is being carried out by a few. So if you play the tape back, you will see that I spoke in favor of removal of the subsidy, that it was no longer the one that we were defending. Therefore, it should go. Lamido spoke the same way. Okoje spoke the same way that the subsidy should go. I remember my very good friend, he succeeded me as General Secretary of Textile Workers Union, a very intelligent guy, Issa Remu. He was still speaking for subsidy. And jokingly I said, Issa, I understand the logic of subsidy. When the working class, the Communist Manifesto or the Soviet Manifesto prevail, then you can reinstate the subsidy. Now, with the bourgeoisie power, what they are doing in the name of subsidy is completely against the best interests of the Nigeria poor. And therefore, we cannot be seen to become the tools in the hand of those guys at NNPC and in the oil chain. They consciously destroyed and mismanaged all the refineries, endangering the job of our workers in the refining industries in Kaduna, in Port Harcourt, in Warri. And suddenly, rather than build refinery of methane, individuals were building so-called tack farms to receive imports. And the fraud NNPC was doing, which is probably still doing wherever they can import, is that every vessel coming to Nigeria necessarily arrive with demurrage. And I asked them, how come you are in charge of building the port? You can expand the import reception facilities. How can every ship coming to Nigeria carries demurrage? And this is passed on to the workers. Then they put in pipeline transportation. Every liter you buy, I think the pipeline, that is about 10% or so of the cost of a PMS. Meanwhile, products were not being carried through the pipeline because the pipeline were not maintained. NNPC took public funds to build small, laughable 1-2 room houses, maybe 2 kilometers apart, along the pipeline route. Nobody was manning those pipelines, except those who now use them to stay while they are vandalizing the pipelines. And they give out contract for the maintenance of the pipelines. They pay huge sums of money, but the pipelines remain what they are. So, I am not a doctrinaire person. I am a pragmatist. So, it's not about whether we have completely arrived. I'm saying the surgeon has carried out his surgery. The patient is healing. Is he strong enough to do Olympic race? Not yet. But is something improving gradually? Yes.
Would you say yes or no? Higher percentage of Nigerians have become poorer over the last 3 years. Yes.
What is the source of your statistics?
IMF, World Bank, and other sources, they have said the numbers have increased.
The same IMF, don't quote them selectively. The same IMF said repeatedly that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economy policy, his reforms are working, that they are in the right direction.
Yes, but have there been more
So what you must quote IMF in total.
Yes, okay.
Not
I
selectively.
agree with what you're saying, but
Once
are
you
there
agree,
more
that's the end of the
people who
discussion.
are poor? Are there more people who are poor, impoverished
You are
in the last 2
you are
years?
quoting those who are specialized in collecting statistics.
Okay.
And
we'll
I'm saying quote them comprehensively,
Okay.
including their
All right.
renewed commitment or comments that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's economic reforms are working, and that is the sensible way to go.
Okay.
And all the so-called economic raters, etc., have said Nigeria is on the positive. So if they say so, what do you make out of that?
A lot of Nigerians, both online and offline.
That one
and
be
those that I
a
have
lot of
spoken
Nigerians,
with,
okay?
A lot of Nigerians, not all Nigerians, a lot of Nigerians are wondering, how did we get to the point where senators and members of the National Assembly will welcome the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria? Instead of the national anthem, they're busy singing and shouting on your mandate, which means they revere the office of the president, not even the office of the president, which they have the right to revere, but the person of the president, and they're saying on his mandate, rather than them.
So that I can give you a chance to ask more questions on
one.
this. Okay, second.
No, go on, answer that very quickly.
All right. I think I also saw something like this when the president went to address conference of judges. And then somebody, whether the band or something, started playing that thing. And the judges rose to pay respect. But this is normal everywhere in the world. When the chief of state, the president of the Republic, of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, or of any country, walks into a place, an event, everybody stands up. So the judges stood up as a matter of courtesy to the office, to the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And somebody else was beating and singing what you are saying. And some reporters, maybe including yours, with due respect, mischievously allege, I use the word because we don't have monopoly of language, mischievously, it's out of mischief, suggested that Nigeria judges were singing on your mandate we shall stand. That was not true. So because would the judges sit down when the president have entered the hall, should they remain on their seat? If they stood up and somebody choose to sing that song, or the drummers or whatever, what should the judges do? The judges should now walk out of the hall?
Should they
so somebody now said, oh, the judges were sick, which is just not fair. It is not correct. It is untruth. The media that I know, and you are one of them, I have watched you say over the years, when I was in NSC, that facts are secret, opinion is free.
Absolutely.
If that is the opinion of some people, it's okay. But the fact is, the judges never stood to worship the president.
But I wasn't talking about the judiciary.
Now, I'm just telling you how far people can go. So it's the National Assembly. Now, because I have heard it before, the president walks into the National Assembly, and some people decide to sing that song. So what should we do? What should the president do? That song has been associated with Asiwaju long before he became president. I know that from one event to the other in Lagos and any other part of Nigeria, as it then was, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, once he entered a place, the people, the supporters, the Amera will start singing on your man, long before he became president. So how can you reduce the serious business of legislation?
The order of the Senate.
Okay. I'm not going to defend it more than that. That's all I will say.
So you can defend it on the basis that it is okay. If some people do that, then everybody else out of respect is okay.
Excuse me. You have chosen this time. You have chosen these questions. Okay? I'm saying to you, the president cannot even order people, don't talk, when he's on the floor of the National Assembly. He probably can do so in the State Executive Council if he wishes. But how some members and remember, if you watch carefully, even those who accompany the president to the National Assembly includes people who are neither in the executive or in the legislature. It's an open day. Anybody enter, the only thing they do is to check for security reasons. Not ID to say, are you a member, are you a senator or rep? Sometimes members and senators are struggling to have their seat. So people stand up to see, is that really at the heart of our challenge?
Okay, so let's move
I
to
don't
the
think
heart
so.
of our challenge in terms of our democracy. Many Nigerians are worried that changes to the Electoral Act could weaken electoral transparency, especially around vote buying and result transmission. What reforms do you believe are essential for free and fair election? And while you're contemplating what your answer will be, just a few days ago, the Senate reversed itself. Let's even start from what the House of Rep did. They said that e-transmission of result should be mandatory. And then the Senate decided that it shouldn't be mandatory. And then the Senate came back, emergency session, and said, well, it's mandatory, but creating a proviso that some Nigerians have said is absolutely balderdash. These are words of Nigerians online saying that this is complete nonsense, that once you create a proviso, then it means you created the loophole, which politicians more often than not, you said it a number of times in the previous responses that once there's a loophole, politicians will take advantage.
You said the Senate took a decision, and when they saw protests, they went back and revisited. They reflected as, okay, let us change it. Is that a mark of weakness or strength?
Absolute
Does it show that the Senate is deaf?
No, it shows that they're
so
listening.
should that not be celebrated? But if you have a location where automatic transition is completely impossible, it is not for nothing that Senate didn't say presiding officer may use electronic transmission. He said it shall use it. However, where it is not possible, we should stop the national election, or we should disenfranchise more than 1/3 of the people in my constituency. But between 2003 election and that of 2023, we have
come a long way.
A huge improvement. For the first time, there's a attempt not only to criminalize and provide for jail sentence for anyone, including a candidate and or a political party, if they commit an electoral offense. All of these are new in introduction, because before, the court will find that in the tribunal, they examine all the table and they find that somebody committed a criminal offense. But under the electoral process, there is no penalty. Now, this law has imposed both financial as well as jail term for anyone who commits certain offenses during the process of voting or after.
But the point I wanted to raise is that Mahmoud Yakubu, before he left office, he did say very clearly that it is possible to have e-transmission of results instantly during. And he said it, and we have it on tape.
Now, when it comes to transmission of results, that's why you need network. But if there's no network in the immediate vicinity, the scanned image of the polling unit level results, which is taken using the beavers, will be transmitted as soon as the staff move from the polling units to the collation centers. And we have been working with the major telecom companies in Nigeria, and we are satisfied that the number of blind spots can be addressed in the country, and the number of blind spots where you have no network is really small.
If he said so, you should have asked him, why did he not then do it that way? Because the same Mahmoud.
That's the question we should
on record. Wait,
senators.
You have finished your question.
Yes, sir.
Answer. So record are saying that INEC server was attacked 17 times.
Yes.
That led to
senators
and I watched
oversight duties.
No. Excuse me.
Oversight
senators should be a varsity election when they themselves are participating. Do you understand what we are talking about?
No, INEC.
We are talking of event on election day.
INEC.
Excuse me. No. Talking of event on election day. Talk is cheap. What is not cheap is to translate cheap talk to positive action.
Yes.
Right? So if Mahmoud said that, the same Mahmoud acknowledged that they were attacked on the server of INEC 70 times. And don't forget, that same Mahmoud had cause to postpone an election for logistic reasons. I remember as national chairman, I was angry. I was in my village. At 2 a.m., I was told INEC has cancelled election. And I have to drive down to Abuja from my village. So if you want to be detained by the idealists who don't care about system failure. You've seen it says, this guy, Yakubu was there. Who stopped him? He was already in the law that he can conduct election in the manner that he deems fit. So why did he use it? He had challenges. Now it's a small percentage. I would wish you to pronounce what that percentage is. Because one man's small percentage is another man's big percentage.
Yes.
And you have to tell me how many Nigerians are supposed to be systematically disenfranchised purposely by law. Okay. That burden is yours, not mine.
So we have
how
to
many
go.
Nigerians should the law
I can hear in
exclude from voting?
I can hear in my ears. My producers are telling me that our time is up, but I can't let you go without asking these two questions.
Okay, I'm already here. You have kidnapped me. I can't.
Let me ask you very quickly then. I hear that just today was on television when there was a Senate committee meeting that about a trillion was what the federal government was proposing as money. About $1 trillion was proposed by the federal government for supporting INEC for the next election, and INEC has submitted a budget of about 876 billion as a proposed budget for the next election. When we're talking this kind of numbers, it just goes over my head. I'm not Dangote. So that kind of number just completely washes over me.
Don't even officially use Dangote. That is why you never see Dangote celebrating birthday at international conferences.
Yes, so
he's not a wasteful person. So don't
because 300 billion some years ago, now we're talking almost 900
whatever
billion.
You want to say.
3 times.
Incidentally, I was in that meeting.
Yes.
In examining INEC proposals. Okay, and we saw that what the executive proposed in many cases was less than what the envelope they were given is less than what INEC believe they need. And let me now speak for myself, because it's no secret, it's public hearing. I said, whoever wrote the envelope couldn't have been a former or present INEC official. And so he can't limit what INEC believe in good faith that they need. We as parliaments, we should not impose a limit that INEC can turn out tomorrow to suggest that because of financial deficit, it couldn't procure what it needed to procure timelessly and or procure inferior substitute because it has a limited resource to work with. Something has to give. So I said, in my opinion, whatever INEC has asked for, let's give them. In return, we will not take excuses. There will be no such thing as you are postponing election at the last minute because logistics challenges, material could not be delivered. Like we saw in one of the national elections, you had material at the airport that are supposed to have been delivered a week before, including sensitive material. So I said, for me, we can't eat our cake and have it. INEC is the only one that is in a position, if you like, let me use this word, to hold government to rise by saying, this is what we need to be able to deliver our job.
Yeah.
Give them. But we have a new INEC leadership who incidentally has been involved not only in as a senior advocate, but is involved in advocacy on the side of free and fair election. Therefore, we should have every reason to give him the benefit of the doubt. Should savings accrue, if for any reason he got some tea cheaper than the thing, because all of these are estimates. Estimate remain what it is, estimate. If at the level of actual procurement or transaction, he saves money, I will expect that given his background, that everybody acknowledge, that will be saved in the treasury. But let's not appropriate less than they asked for, and then tomorrow somebody says, we didn't have money to do this, and therefore we are where we are.
So we got.
So now this situation where government is giving INEC less, look at what you had. That government want to give INEC more that they need.
When they said there was a video that went viral with regards foot massage with a South African lady, you did say that it was artificial intelligence, didn't you? And they said that the young lady went on and said, well, you ask him, we posted. Are you saying that?
Okay.
Absolutely.
Now,
Just for the sake
the only
of-
thing I want that is worth commenting on.
Yes.
What I said remain my position. I'm not going to indulge those who want to trivialize this time. Even when I was sitting election in 2012, through photoshopping, PDP generated a certain image, of my person, which was not true. So I'm used to it. The only point when I saw some analysts saying they see comrade in a private jet, I saw some people say, how can he afford
was he in a
whether
private
to
jet?
own or even to charter? Here's my defense. Assuming, without conceding that was the case. Every now and then, we go for events. And you find that the airport is packed full. Since I left office, it's not even about choice. I cannot afford to spend 15 million naira to fly to Lagos. Check people at the domestic terminal. They will tell you how often they see me running to catch a flight. The same media reported me as fighting with Air Peace for refusing to carry passengers. So if I am into private jet hiring and so on, what would be my business with Air Peace? And even on that occasion, to see how some people are determined, because see, God has given me what He has given me. There is nothing any woman being born of a woman can do about it. I have served this country to the best of my ability, not from cozy offices, on the streets, and I have paid my price. I have been detained on the ground at Awolowo Way, interrogated by Colonel or Lieutenant Colonel Omeka, allegedly for plotting coup without an armed forces. So I'm used to that. I don't own a private jet. I cannot afford to charter a private jet, but I have friends
Who have it?
who have, and when they are traveling, I say, okay, come, you go to Lagos or Benin. Yes, okay. Oh, I have 2-3 seats. Oh, I have one person with me. Okay, let's go. I have flew like that to Lagos. I flew like that to this. I have even flew like that to US, to some other places.
Yes.
Courtesy of those who have.
But South Africa is not one of them.
If you imagine how old my age and where I'm coming from,
Yes.
there are people who have admired my courage.
Yes. So on that note, thank you for your time.